Thank you for coming back. This is going to be a tutorial on the cookies and cream ice cream portion of my ice cream cone. I just did a chocolate cone before, so now we're going to actually focus on the cookies and cream. So the actual ice cream mixture itself, I use about a little less than a third white polymer clay, and I use 2/3 to a little over 2/3 of the translucent. This is Premo. This is white Sculpey. I never have 100% Sculpey because it will be brittle. So I mix those together, and this is the color, but the specks you see in it is black sand. So this is black craft sand, and I just rolled it in and mixed it in. I'll break a little bit of this off and mix some in there, but that helps. The reason I'm using translucent is it will add a little bit of depth, and when it cooks you'll be able to see some of the specks underneath the surface of the white. And I have already done an ice cream cone tutorial before with rainbow ice cream. So they have rainbow stripes. So here I'm going to do a tutorial on how to do an ice cream scoop without a mold. That one I show how to do it without the mold, and then I actually at the end show me making a mold of the ice cream scoop, but I figured for those of you without a mold, it's nice to be able to learn how to shape it on your own. I'm going to see if that, around how that circle looks. That's pretty big on there. I'll pinch a little bit more off. I think that we'll make this work with just a little bit less. So I form a ball, and I'm going to take my cone and I'm going to dip it in some TLS on the ridge to help act as a glue and help our little ball stick. So I'm going to force that on there. So that's the nice round dome top portion of our cone. And as you know, they usually have ridges around the side. I start forming that by pulling down along the sides of that top circular area. You can do this with a full circle or a half circle. And then you can start shaping that bottom portion that we pulled out. If some comes down too far, you could push it up with your safety pin. You could also use a needle tool if you have a needle tool. I like how close I could get my hands to the clay itself when I use a safety pin. So that's often why you see me using a safety pin instead. And it won't be completely flat, but this helps get the shape of our ice cream started. I'll smooth it around the sides. If you have solid lines, you can roll your safety pin, roll it in a circle along it, and that helps smooth out ridges if you've created ridges on that top portion of your ice cream there. If you want to remove some, you could remove it with your pin, just like that. So this is basically how you sculpt an ice cream scoop on your cone. But once you actually have a perfect scoop, you can buy a mold making set at the craft store. It's usually mixing a half-half ratio, and then once you have the perfect ice cream shape, you can just mix the mold mix, push it in, and let it rest for a while, and then you come back and you have it. So from here, I'm gonna take my toothbrush and make sure it's not too smooth on top. So I'm adding some texture there. And ice cream often has little ridges. It's not too perfect. So I go across a little bit with a pin. And now we're going to add all the little cooking and cream bits. We have some, which is the black sand, but the rest, I'm actually using unconditioned clay because it's just sitting on top. This particular one is Sculpey. The color is suede brown. There's also a really pretty color called hazelnut out there that's really, really dark. The burnt umber is a little bit too warm, where this brown, this suede brown, is pretty cool in tone. It's grayed down. So from here, I add little tiny bits. I wasn't explaining how I was removing it, so I'll explain that in a minute. But I'm adding little tiny bits of clay, spreading it around, having larger chunks and smaller chunks in there. And you'll want to add some to the ridge too. But the way that I remove it is I take my safety pin, and it's like you're actually texturing a cake. You move the safety pin in tiny circles, and that will tease out some clay. Then I take the clay and I add it to our ice cream. And I will push it around. I'll push it down into the clay so it doesn't come out. And if it's a large piece, you could even remove some and move it about. So you can see how I'm doing that. And I do this all the way around the cone, all the way on all sides of the ice cream. So I just go in little circles, tease out some, and I'll put some down in the ridge too. You want it everywhere. You don't want the bottom to look like regular ice cream and the rest to look like cookies and cream. You want it to be pretty consistent. Something that would be really cute on this, by the way, would be chocolate sauce dripping down. If you're doing the cookies and cream just like I am now, without adding anything, you can cook it on its side. But if you were wanting to do a sauce dripping down your ice cream cones, you can fold up a piece of paper and you cook it like this. Oh, it's not staying right now. It usually does. So it will stay upright if you cut little triangles on a folded pieces of paper, and you could let it cook that way, and then your sauce could be dripping down the sides and not get stuck to anything. So that's perfect for ice cream with sauce dripping down it. Usually you don't get sauce dripping down a cone. You will in a cup, but it looks so pretty that why not? because I do think this would be really pretty with like a hot fudge dripping down. So yeah, so that's basically all I do. You can have it something like this, or you could add a lot more. You could decide how much chocolate you want. I like a lot of the cookie crumbles. A lot of the cookie crumbles that you see in the one on the left too is the sand underneath. Once it cooks, because there's so much translucent on it, they show up a little bit more. So in here, it's hard for you to see, but this little area right here is actually the black sand underneath the surface of the clay. There's some black sand underneath the surface of the clay here. It's harder to see now, but when it cooks it will be a bit brighter. So I know that this has been a long one, and I'm so glad that you guys like my tutorials and are subscribing and leaving comments. I try to get to all the comments when I can. I will answer you much sooner if there's a reply box, because I check them not on the actual video itself, but I get a little notification usually when someone leaves a comment, and I read it, and if there's a reply box right then and it's not something I have to think about, I will leave the answer as soon as I see it to your comment. But if you're leaving it and I don't know if you're leaving it from a phone, but for some reason there's some comments that I have that don't have reply boxes, I still try to answer those, but it usually takes me longer because I have to go through the video itself, and then I scroll down, I have to locate it, and then I will leave a message, but it's not going to be, it's usually once a week I go through that, because I go through every single video to find the messages that didn't have reply boxes, and then I try to go through all those at once. So that's how I answer. So here we are. The reason I'm doing this one now is because somebody requested my cookies and cream cake, and since we're going on to the bakery theme, I will do the cookies and cream cake tutorial, and why not have cookies and cream ice cream to go with it? So here we are, and I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will be talking to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.